Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on from where you're joining us. Welcome to Hot Topics, Trial Balance, the Foundation for Custom Financial Reports, and R3 release. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes as people start joining. Welcome. We will be recording this webinar and sharing following today's event. Get started here in just a few minutes. Thank you all for joining. All right, welcome to Hot Topics. I'm Nicole Brinson, Marketing Director here at LBMC Technology Solutions, and I'll be hosting today's training. Our host, and expert today, Mark Joseph, will be going through Trial Balance, the Foundation for Custom Financial Reports, as well as R3 release. Couple of housekeeping notes as we get started. If you are seeking CPE credit, you will need to answer all the poll questions throughout today's session. There will be a total of 8. Following today's session, you'll get 1 or 2 emails from us. We'll be including the slides. We'll do the recording from today. And if you're eligible for CPE credit, you'll be receiving a separate email that has your certificate. Give us about 2 weeks to process those. If you don't receive anything in 2 weeks, feel free to email me at nicole.brinson@lbmc.com. Please help me welcome today's presenter, Mark Joseph, Sage Intacct consultant here at LBMC Technology Solutions. Mark's been with LBMC for 10 years and brings a wealth of experience in financial and tax accounting, having held various positions in local certified public accounting firms. His roles range from accounting supervisor to corporate accounting specialist and staff accountant. And as a Sage consultant here at LBMC, Mark works with all departments impacted by technology and provides consulting and training on how to use technology to achieve business objectives. His focus areas include healthcare, nonprofit, and entertainment. His certification as a CPA further enhances his ability to provide top-notch support. And in addition to his professional accomplishments, Mark is also a member of the American Institute of CPAs and the Tennessee Society of CPAs. Mark, thank you for hosting today.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Can't believe I've done all that. Wow, I'm an old man. All right. I'm glad y'all could be here today. Let's get started. Have a lot to go through. First, let's talk about the learning objectives today. We're going to talk about the financial reports development and how to troubleshoot those reports. We're going to talk about the articles in the Intacct community that Sage has put out there discussing a best practice of having a manual retained earnings account in addition to the closed to, or what I like to call the control retained earnings account. We're going to compare several versions or standard out-of-the-box reports that are trial balance in nature. And then I'm going to teach you how to build a custom trial balance. I started to build these when I had 2 support tickets come in from 2 separate ladies that liked to see trial balances with all 12 fiscal periods side by side. So that's a really neat report to have handy. When I work reporting related support tickets, the most common questions that come in are, why doesn't my balance sheet balance? Or why doesn't the net income on my P&L agree to the current period net income on the balance sheet? Or on the statement of cash flows, why does the math not work? Why does the net increase or decrease in cash plus the beginning cash not result in the ending cash? So those are the most common. And then some other types of problems can be caused by just a real complex, this is in the case of custom financial reports, complex row structures. So here's just kind of a summary of what you'll see in the exhibits that are at the end of the slides. I just made some screenshots of Sage's articles in the community that discuss the retained earnings account. So Intacct wants that the closed to retained earnings account. Intacct wants exclusive use of that account. It's a, as you know, it's a dynamic date driven reporting system. So it needs this account as a workspace, if you will, to calculate retained earnings at the time a user runs a report. So if you need to adjust retained earnings, it wants you to post those direct journal entries to a manual, a second retained earnings account. And then you just group the two accounts in an account group for your reports. And you'll notice in that article that Intacct says that your statement of cash flows will not work if you've got adjustments posting to your closed to retainers. Here's my little toolbox, my go-to tools, if you will, to tackle support tickets that are financial report related. I always create a custom view of your chart of accounts, and I like to call it categories missing. This tool is helpful when I'm troubleshooting an out-of-the-box or predefined financial report, because as you know, all of those are built with account groups that are of the category type, which means there's a mapping mechanism involved between your chart of accounts and these out-of-the-box financial reports. The flip view is a custom, well, it's kind of like a custom view, but it's a little toggle button at the top right of the account groups list view. And that's a very helpful view when you're creating custom financial reports. So custom account groups are used to build custom financial reports. And the flip view is just a way to track to make sure that you're touching every GL account when you're building a custom financial report. So I use that a lot. My favorite standard, what I like to call trial balance reports, technically not, because it can be a subset of the chart of accounts, but it can be like a trial balance if you don't filter it for a subset of GL accounts. But the dimension balances report is especially useful when you're working on mostly income statements or P&Ls that involve some filtering at dimensional levels. So for example, and we'll see this later on, you might be presenting salary and wages by department on different rows of your P&L. And so this dimension balances report is very handy. And then the custom trial balance, and I'm going to show you how to build that. Poll question number 1, Nicole.
All right, our first poll question. How often do you encounter discrepancies in your financial reports that require manual investigation? Got a couple of options here. We've got frequently, occasionally, rarely, never. The hopeful answer there is never, right, Mark? Hopefully never requiring any investigation.
That's right. I think this is probably fixed by now, but you'd be surprised. It's been several years ago, but I noticed that even the out-of-box reports can be a little problematic. They had some account groups that I think they've accounted for now, but they had been omitted from the report definitions. So that will cause balance sheets to be out of balance.
Not a good place for them to be, is it? We want them to
That's
all,
right.
no matter where you're looking, all look the same. All right, we'll give y'all a few more seconds to get your response in. Reminder, if you're seeking CPE credit, you will need to answer all the poll questions. It's a requirement for NASPA. All right, I'll share the results. You can see we've got, a mix of things. More than half, though rarely. That's good. That's a good sign. All right, thank you.
So I'm going to go out to the system now, and I've got a list here of 6 financial reports. The The ones that don't have LBMC in parentheses are standard, or not standard, I guess I should say predefined or out of the box financial reports. And so I'm just going to run this balance sheet here real quickly. And you'll notice that when I run this balance sheet, I have actually sabotaged. This is a demo environment. Up here, you'll see Falcon Ridge. This is a wealth asset management company, and I've sabotaged it to be out of balance so that I could demonstrate the steps I go through most often to troubleshoot. So we have a total assets figure that does not agree to total assets and liabilities. So the very first step I always do is, one of the things I do very early on is to open up this row right here, net income, because I want to determine as quick as I can if this is a predefined report. Sometimes it's hard to tell by the name. Sometimes the names get changed, but I can very quickly see that this is a group of account groups, and most likely this is the out of the box net income account group. So the very first step I do is to replace that account group with my own account group that's of the accounts type. And what I want this row to be on the balance sheet is what I like to refer to as the source of truth. So I'm just going to have an accounts type of group that has as its members all GL accounts, beginning with the first revenue account number and the very last possible expense account number. And so what we highly recommend is that when I'm working a support ticket, I always try to leave the customer's version of the report alone. And so I've duplicated this report now, and I've got one called LBMC at the end. And I want to show you where I've replaced that net income account group with a new account group. Sorry. Yeah, there it comes. So here we go. This is my, and the same goes with account groups. We highly recommend that you leave the out of the box account groups as they are and duplicate an account group, which is what I've done here. And I've addended our initials here at the end. So my net income account group is all possible closing accounts, or what we like to call P&L accounts. So 40,000 to 99,999. So this will be the source of truth here. So now if I run this report, my duplicated version here, you'll see that I still have a little bit of a discrepancy here. But you'll notice now that I have the source of truth on this row. This is all possible P&L accounts. So that's just, in my opinion, that's just really important to do that. So what's the next step I do if I still have a discrepancy? So now I'm going to talk about that other tool I have, and that's to, I'm going to go to my chart of accounts here. And I have a custom view of the chart of accounts that filters the category field for any GL accounts that are missing a category. And you'll recall that the category is that mapping mechanism that puts all of your GL accounts in a predefined account group if you've given the account a quick start category assignment. So the purpose of this custom view is to see if I have any GL accounts that are missing that quick start category. So here you see there's just the one, and all I've got to do is to edit this GL account. You'll notice that's not a required field. There's not a red asterisk after it. So you can accidentally leave off a category here, and nothing's going to stop you from doing that. So this is where I actually sabotage this. So I'm going to replace that category, which I had cleared previously. When I save this change, then that GL account no longer meets my criteria. So This is what you always want to see on the categories missing custom list view, nothing. So now I know that any out of the box report should work because we have proven that every GL account has been assigned a quick start category. So if I go back now to my my duplicate version of the balance sheet and I refresh this screen, you'll see now that my assets equal my liabilities and equity. Okay, so those are two things I did to the balance sheet to troubleshoot that and get that in balance. Now I'm going to skip the income statement and go to the statement of cash flows next. Pull this one up. Now you'll notice that, okay, this looks all good. Remember, a statement of cash flows really is just categorizing the change in balance of every GL account. So this is just the format of a cash flow statement. It's just presenting the change in balance in different categories of all GL accounts. So you'll notice this looks good. 216, 428, 840, 41. That agrees to our cash and equivalents balance at the end of the year. So that looks good. But there is a problem. And I'm going to bring up my little calculator here. When you do the math here, so I'm going to take the increase decrease in cash, 372, 559. I'm going to add the beginning cash of 590. And the math comes up with a different result. So there's an error here somewhere. Okay. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is replace, this is the group of account groups net income. I'm going to replace that with my source of truth net income first. That's always my first step. So I'm going to close this one and I'm going to duplicate that cash flow statement again. I'll show you where I made that replacement up here at the top, right here. So this is my source of truth, net income loss. So that's going to take care of some of the issue. All right. So now we've got our source of truth up here. This is all the GL accounts for P&L items. My calculator one more time. So I've corrected part of the error here, so I'm going to update. So now we have a difference of exactly $1 million here. All right. So the second step, I would go visit my categories missing. We're already good there, so we know it's not a problem with GL accounts being omitted from an account group. So what do I do next? Well, I'm going to go to my custom trial balance that I have in my toolkit. And I have this this is my favorite of the 3 versions of that trial balance. I like to run this to make sure that the bottom line is 0. And you'll notice there's that $1 million difference that we're seeing here. My trial balance works in prior months, but when I get to December, I'm seeing $1 million an error here. And most of the time, that's going to represent a direct journal entry in our retained earnings closed to account. I like to call that my control account. So if I drill down on that number, you're going to see that there's a journal entry, a direct journal entry posting to the retained earnings closing account, closed to account. So what we have to do here is we have to abide by the best practice that Intacct has recommended in its articles. And I'm just going to drill into the transaction here. And I'm just going to simply edit this transaction, and I'm going to change the account number from, remember, the control account. Intacct doesn't want any entries in it. Wants exclusive use for what I like to call ghost closing entries. It's a calculation at the time reports are run. So here's a manual retained earnings account. This is a non-closing type of account. So Intacct says put all your adjustments there. Okay. So I will save that change. That's kind of the first step. That fixes my this report here. If I refresh that, so my trial balance is what it needs to be. It's all in balance here, but I still haven't dealt with the that $1 million adjustment for purposes of the cash flow statement. So what we need to do, let's see if this will, when I refresh this screen, I believe you'll see a new account group, a new row show up here right under stock-based compensation. And that's where I've created an account group to hold my manual retained earnings account. Okay. So there you go. So here's a row that presents the change in balance for the manual retained earnings account for this reporting period. And now you'll see that we have dealt with that $1 million math error. So now we have no math errors anymore in the in the statement of cash flows. So 2 or 3 different steps there to get the cash flow statement working. And then the last one, we'll take a look at the an income statement here. Go back. Now, first I'm going to pull up my balance sheet again because we want to compare this number right here on our balance sheet. That's current period net income loss per the balance sheet. We want to compare that to our bottom line of the P&L. So this is the number we want to compare. So I'm going to pull up my that's where I've done that here. So here we can see that the balance sheet and income statement, there's an 11,741 variance there. So there's a discrepancy. We know the balance sheet is right. We have a balance sheet that balances, and our net income line is the source of truth. So we know that the problem rests in the P&L. I also know that the P&L, we're doing some departmental subtotal filtering in the P&L, and I told you about the salary wage example. So there's 2 ways to find the problem there. Most of the time when you are filtering any P&L row by a department, what happens most is that not every departmental dimension value is being accounted for in the specification. So how can we find out what we might have left off? Most of the time, and to do that, I'm going to pull up one of my special trial balances here. Let's see, here we go. So I'm going to pull up a version of that trial balance, that custom trial balance that's going to be by department. And when you expand a column in your report definition by a dimension, you'll notice that if there are any transactions that have been posted without a value for that dimension, Intacct will account for those transactions in this very last column that's headed up no department. So most of the time, the reason for the error in the income statement is that there's not been an account group that's filtered for that those GL transactions that have omitted a department tag. Okay, and there's a special way to filter for that. So I'm going to pull up my duplicate where I have accounted for the null department salary and wage. Here's my copy of the P&L. So let's run that. Okay, so here's the account group. I just inserted it down here at the bottom. It belongs somewhere up here. Could be under cost of sales if it's a cost of sales department. But this is where you'll see that when you filter for no department, then you'll correct that error that's in your income statement here. So now we've got an income statement that agrees to the balance sheet. So let me give you a quick glance at what that account group looks like. Let's, yeah. So if I go into edit mode, it's a little easier to see. So I just, this is more sabotage. Sorry about that. This is the category type. So this is one of the out of the box account groups. So I broke my own rule already by not duplicating it. But you'll see where I came down here and I'm filtering the department. I'm filtering for a null department, if you will, no departments specified. So that is going to isolate that $11,000 worth of transactions that were posted without a department. Okay. There's one other way that that you can find. Let's say you don't have just three, just a short list of departments. Let's say your departments list has 20 or 30 departments. So it's going to get very crowded in columns. There's another way to find these null department subtotals, and that's by using that dimension balances report. So let me show you how to do that. I'm going to go find in my payroll. So this is the account group that was filtered for those three departments. So I created a department group that was going to pick up as its members departments 100, 200, and 300. And even though I call it all departments, it's not going to pick up transactions with no department tag. So that's a null department. So if I copy this account group name and then I come back and open up my dimension balances report. I've got that one memorized right here. And I've memorized this report with some parameters here. I'm filtering my balances by the account root. I think this is underutilized. It's really neat that you can filter a standard report, this particular standard report, by the salaries and wages, salary and wages expenses account root. All right, and so when you do that, and I'm going to come down here and define my columns here. I like to put that dimension first. So this is what that looks like. So if you've got 20 departments, this will list your departments in rows. It'll be a lot cleaner, nicer to see. But here's that same $11,000 here showing up with a null department on this row. So that's another way to find transactions that haven't been tagged with a department. All right. Let me go to the, I'm going to go fix the sabotage that I did for that one. I'm drilling down into my report, and I'm going to go look at this 11,741 entry. And you can see where I sabotaged that posting to account 6,000. I'm going to edit that and put the value back that was there before. Okay. I'm going to save that. All right. When I refresh my screen here, this is going to go away because now we have a tag on that transaction. So I'm going to refresh. That amount is going to shift up into this row. We're still good. We're still reconciled to the net income or the balance sheet. Okay, so those are 3 financial statements with some sabotage that I've corrected with my toolbox. One thing I didn't show yet is well, I'll show you that in a minute. Let's see, am I in the right place? All right. So I'm just going to navigate through these sites pretty quickly. I'm going to show you what's Intacct offers as standard reports. The first 2 are true trial balance reports. The next 2 can look like trial balances if you don't filter for subsets of the chart. So this is kind of the way the trial balance can be customized, if you will, with certain parameters. So I'm going to compare the other 3 to this one. So only what's different about the next 3 I'll list. And here's an example of that, just the standard trial balance report. If you open it up to include all eight columns that are available to you, this is what it'll look like. You'll have opening balances that have debit and credit. Then you have the book, the accrual book or cash book, whatever the case may be, debit and credit, adjusting entries, debit and credit, and then ending balance in both debit and credit. So that can be minimized down to either a 4-column presentation or 6. Then we have a comparative that limits it to 5 columns. You have 4 columns that deal with the current reporting period, and then that first column compares to a prior period. So this is what that looks like. I chose a current quarter and a prior quarter for comparative. Okay, Nicole.
All right. Poll question number 2 coming at you. Which standard report do you rely on most for financial analysis? Mark, you just detailed several different options for reports. Got trial balances, comparative trial balances, account balances, dimension balances. What do you prefer, Mark, as far as reports go? What would you rely
Well,
on?
there's actually two. Well, you don't list the other one. So for this list, I would say dimension balances, absolutely, without a doubt.
Right. We'll give
It's
everybody.
especially helpful with the, like I said, the P&L or income statement, because that's where dimensional subtotals are often used throughout the report.
And we haven't told everyone, but you'll be sharing some report templates later in today's session. That's going to make some of that reporting a lot easier for attendees. I'll give everybody just a few more seconds. Submit your poll response. Right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for sharing.
All right. So the account balances, this is the first of the two that you can actually present just a subset. I've used this before. I like to create a memorized list of inter-entity accounts. And the grand total for that report should be 0, right? If you want your intercompany or inter-entity accounts to eliminate, you want that total at the bottom to be 0. You can see the difference. This is just the differences from the standard trial balance. One of the settings is to retain year-to-date balances. I want to show this here that if you choose that setting, you'll see beginning balances for P&L accounts. If you don't choose the setting, the P&L account balances will always show 0 at the beginning of the reporting period. There's also a way to run this with, it's kind of a hybrid general ledger report. I never used this, but it's interesting. For whatever reason, they've got the transactions within each GL account grouped into 2 groups here. You can see them underlined. I don't like this as well because these are the same 2 groupings for every GL account. So assets, revenues, expenses, kind of an unusual grouping heading. That's just for your awareness. And here's my favorite dimension balances report. And this is, I'm not going to take the time to read this, but this is my favorite of the out-of-the-box or standard report. So 2 ways to run this. The second way involves budgets. So the first way is just actual figures, opening, change in balance, and closing. But you can also include budgets for every GL account. And by the way, this doesn't completely resolve the normalized variance or normalized difference functionality. It's not exactly the same, but you can order these 2 columns. In other words, I can put budget first and actual second. This formula is always column 1 minus column 2. So if you want to change change the order of the way these 2 columns are presented, that will change the sign, if you will, of the difference. Oh, that's a quick turnaround for poll questions.
That was quick. We've got them spaced out. We've got them spaced out there for you. So poll question number 3, do you currently use dimensions? For example, location, department, project, in your financial reporting? Different ways to slice and dice that data, right, Mark?
Exactly. I think if you use dimensions, you get the full power of the system, and all of your lists are much shorter that way because of the relational database nature of the system.
All right, give everybody just a few more seconds to get your responses in. All right. So a good portion of the audience is using dimensions extensively. That's great.
That's awesome. All right. I just took a screenshot of what I'm going to take you to look at in the system here. So Nicole has a couple of import templates that she's going to make available. Those import templates will create for you in your system these 7 account groups. That's all it takes to build all 3 of those custom trial balances that I showed you a while ago. We're going to go back and revisit those. And with the templates, it's really neat. I seriously built all in preparing for this presentation. It took me all of about 10 minutes to build all 3 of those custom trial balances using these 2 import templates. There's the reports there. So I'm going to see what's on the next slide. Okay, let me take a look at this. So these three custom trial balances, I'm going to show you an example of those here. So these first 2 slides are the result of a support ticket that I worked from. This first one's from a lady who said, I'm involved with our implementation. We're having to tie out some GL history, and the trial balance that's out of the box, the predefined, the standard report, is just not. I think there's a better way I can tie out. I'd like to tie out all of my history at once. So is there a way that I can put 12 months side by side in a 1-column presentation? In other words, you got debits or positive numbers, credits or negative numbers, and the column adds up to 0. So I said, yeah, I can build that for you. And so I presented this report to her, and she loved it. Everything works fine. You'll notice I've underlined here, this is the closed to account, and each column is headed up with a month, a current month. That's a range of dates that covers 1 current month. And because each month or each column is a month, you'll notice that the retained earnings is being updated every time a month closes. Okay. That's why this is a number that's changing month by month. So I had a second support ticket come in from a second lady, and she had the same need. She was involved in the GL history migration from an old system into Intacct, and she wanted to tie out 12 months at once, side by side. So I showed her this report, but she didn't like this. Why is the retained earnings changing every month? So she didn't like it. And I said, you want it? And she said, retained earnings doesn't change until you close the year. And I said, okay, I can give that to you if you want. So that's the second version of the trial balance. And you'll notice here that, and I've got this version of the report, by the way, is like a trailing 1 year. It's always going to present 12 months, regardless of the as of date that you enter when you run the report. So I ran it as of June 30 so that I could demonstrate to you that, hey, her retained earnings does not change until the year closes. So here's 12/31/16. That was the first year in this demo environment. So the retained earnings updates in the first month of the next fiscal year. And so she loved this one a lot better. The way you get that to work, by the way, is you'll notice that these date ranges are no longer months. It's not the current month reporting period for those columns. It's rather year to date. So that's how you get this to work here. Each column represents a year to date time frame. So what you're essentially doing is you're anchoring the first day of the year. as the start date. And then I've already taken you to this report. This is the third version of that trial balance. By the way, the only thing that's changing, you don't have to import 3 sets of account groups. The only thing changing in the definition of these 3 reports is the column definition. So I'll show you that. This is the by department. Okay, I'm going to go out to the system here real quick, Nicole, before we do that question. All right, let me close some of my. All right. So the first thing I want to let you see are the account groups. Okay, here's my 7 account groups. You'll notice on this account groups list view, this is a custom list view. I'm filtering for that prefix. By the way, this is a really nice tip. I've learned that I can take advantage of this purpose field. This is a way to manage and filter your lists by. I'm using that field to cross-reference every account group that I create, a custom account group. This represents here the name of the financial report I'm building with that account group. So this comes in handy a bunch of different ways. So I hope you'll notice that as we go along here. So I'm able to filter my long list. I think there's over 400 account groups now in the system, but just by putting 501 here, I've restricted it down to the 7 account groups that I used to create my financial report trial balance. On this, so let me show you another demonstration. This is a toggle. This flip view is a toggle on that screen. And this is going to be a list of all the GL accounts and all of the custom account groups that have been created, of which each GL account has become a member of. So I'm going to, how many accounts do we have, right? We have 110 total GL accounts. And when I'm building a custom financial report, or in this case, a custom trial balance, I want to be able to see where I have accounted for all 110 GL accounts in the account group. See, there I am, I'm filtering for that 501. I'm addending the name of my account group with that 501 prefix that my financial report is named. So you'll notice that all 110 accounts have been assigned to a custom account group that I have used or created to build a trial balance. So that's an excellent use of the flip view. Okay, this is really only helpful if you come up with this kind of a technique. You need a way of filtering this flip view screen by the name of the financial report you're building to make sure you have accounted for every GL account in that report that you're building, or applicable GL account. On this same screen, I have ability to go ahead and import. So here's the 2 templates that Nicole is providing. I just want to show you those real quick. The account groups template is here. So when you get it, you might want to maybe replace my name with your name. And if you've got another technique for naming your financial reports, this is where I'm utilizing that purpose field on the account group as a cross-reference. I tell you, that's really been sweet for me over the years. I kind of started that back about 5 years ago. I love it. So this is the first of two templates that you'll import, and then the second one is called group members. Now this is the one that you have to pay attention to. Whatever the structure is of your chart of accounts, you'll want to change the account numbers here. So I'm skipping the closed to retained earnings account in this list of balance sheet accounts. So that's why you see two ranges here. I've got a range of all balance sheet accounts that stops right before the account number of my closed to retained earnings account. And I pick up again after, okay, and go to the end of the account number range for all balance sheet accounts, 39999. For income statement accounts, there's that source of truth range, 40,000 to 99,999. And then I've got these two retained earnings accounts. This first one is the control. That's the closed to account. Intacct doesn't want to see any direct journal entries posted there. But here's a manual retained earnings adjustments account. So that's the very next account number. So these are the two account numbers that I'm skipping up here. But with all of these ranges, I have accounted for every possible account number, with the exception of zero leading account numbers, which Intacct highly discourages. So beginning with 10,000 to 99,999. So this custom trial balance will include all possible GL account numbers. So as long as you add account numbers when you're, as long as you assign account numbers when you add new GL accounts, they should fall into one of these account groups automatically. You won't have to edit these groups ever again. So you'll, and these are already in the CSV file format, so they're ready to import. So you'll come back to this screen and you'll import. Okay. And then you'll import the members afterward. So now you've got the account groups that you need. For your trial balance. So now you'll come over here to the financial reports and you'll just hit add. So I like to do this one first. This is the fastest one. One of the account groups that we brought in was called trial balance. So the shortcut to define the entire row structure is just to drop into this window trial balance. That's the double underscore at the very bottom of our trial balance that should be presenting zeros, proving that your trial balance is in balance. And when you pick up the double underscore account group, it's going to magically create the row structure because it can learn the groups of account groups and the members of each of those groups and kind of reverse it. That's kind of neat. What's unique about each of the three reports then is the column structure. So the monthly and year to date only requires two columns. So you've got a current year to date reporting period that I'm expanding into separate monthly columns. Okay. So that's where you can, instead of expanding by a department like we're doing in that other report, we're actually expanding by a time period. And we're saying, show me months in separate columns. So with one column definition, I'm able to produce up to 12 monthly columns in a fiscal year. So this is to date. So if I ran 9/30/2017 is what I'm using here, that would only present 9 columns for this report. We'll see in the next one though, it doesn't matter what my as of date, it's going to present 12 months because it's kind of like a trailing year. I've got an extra column here to, if you will, cross-foot the monthly P&L amounts so that I can see a year-to-date P&L account balances. Really doesn't impact the balance sheet. It's always going to be the ending balance regardless, but that is helpful. So when we look at that, here's what we had in our screenshot. So these numbers here, beginning with our income statement accounts. By the way, I forgot, don't forget you can freeze that first column. So this is cross-footing my P&L. Okay, let's go take a look at the second one. This was the second lady, didn't like the fact that retained earnings changed. So the only thing you have to do to get that is to, went into the wrong one, sorry. You have to hard code all 12 columns on this report. The reporting period you want is called current year through current month. And the way you back up each column to the prior year to date by month is to use this offset feature here. So at the far right, that will be the true current year through current month as of December. Pay attention to your preview date range here. But as I go back one prior month each time, my year to date period end changes. It falls short by an extra month. So that's how we're able to show 12 months side by side, each month, each column being a year to date as of that month end. And then for the departments, all we're doing, we're using the same expand by feature there, except now we're expanding by a dimension. Okay, so we're expanding by the department dimension, and that's where it's going to cause your no department transactions to fall out in a separate column, and you can address those the way you need to. Okay, I think I've talked about what I needed to talk to there. There you go, Nicole.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Let me launch the fourth poll for this section. Have you created or customized a trial balance report in Sage Intacct? And after we provide these wonderful templates, some of these answers might change. Right?
Who doesn't have 10 minutes?
That's right.
You can do that while you're eating the cookie on your desk, which I'm looking at right now.
There you go. See, one of the benefits of partnering with a great consultant like Mark, he's tricks of the trade, secrets, right? Templates. All right, give everybody just a few more seconds to get your poll responses in. We'll move on. All right. So we've got some that have, a large majority that haven't, and some that would like to learn how. So we just went through that, and then we'll be sharing the templates with you that'll enable you to do that a little bit easier.
All right. So if you got time, go ahead and take a look at these articles. Like I said, these are in the Intacct community. The first one talks about how can I adjust retained earnings or net assets if you're not for profit world. This explains why we need a second retained earnings account for adjustments. This just explains for those who are new to Intacct. Intacct, like I said, is a dynamic date-driven reporting system. So there's never an entry, a physical entry that posts to your retained earnings account that closes the books. Closing the books simply involves locking down the reporting period from further transactions. There's not a journal entry that debits revenue accounts and credits expense accounts and plugs retained earnings. That does not happen, except in a ghost close way. Thus the closed to version of the retained earnings. And this gives you some examples of how Intacct calculates retained earnings. I thought that was helpful. All right. Oh, wow. I'm so happy. Came in right at 12. I never would have dreamed that was possible.
Great job, Mark. We did have one question that I wanted to make sure we address. And then if you have questions going forward, please make sure you can use the Q&A function in the bottom there on your toolbar, and you can use the chat function. But we do have one question before. Mark, when you were working in the unbalanced sheet, how did you know? Hold on. How did you know that the problem was on the P&L and not on the income statement?
Well, P&L is the income statement. I'm not sure I understand the correction. I'm sorry, the
Okay.
question.
Okay.
How did I know? So let me just refresh. So you'll remember that's one of the main reasons that I like to begin. If I'm troubleshooting an income statement, even if the balance sheet has not been asked, I haven't been asked to look at the balance sheet, I like to go look at the balance sheet anyway and replace the net income for the current period that shows up in the equity section of the balance sheet. I like to replace that with what I call the source of truth. That's accounts 40,000 to 99,999. And that becomes the target for the net income on the P&L. If the bottom line in the P&L does not agree to the source of truth in the equity section of the balance sheet, you know the problem is in the P&L. I'm not sure I answered the question or not, but
okay. I'll let you know. If you'll let me know if you ask that question, if you'll drop it in the chat, let me know if that answers your question. Otherwise, we can come back to it. All right, so we'll be moving on to portion number 2 now, R3 highlights. And then in between, while we give you just a sec, Mark, if you'll move to next slide, please. I did want to bring to everyone's attention Sage Intacct Summit, which is coming up in October. If you've been sitting here thinking, I would like to be in the room with all the LBMC Sage Intacct consultants to really pick their brain and spend 6 or 7 hours digging into Sage Intacct, now is your chance. So we'll be hosting 2 in-person summits, one in Knoxville and one in Nashville this year in October. You can register with the QR code there on your screen. You will also be getting invitations via email, so be on the lookout for that. We hope you'll be able to join us. Both sessions will offer 4 CPE credits, as well as breakfast and lunch, networking opportunities, and some future roadmap information. So look forward to seeing you there.
okay. And I want to expand a little bit on the answer to that question. I just thought of something that I failed to do. When I was troubleshooting the income statement, what I did not do was what I did do on the other 2. I visited the categories missing list view of the chart of accounts. So there might also be some brand new P&L GL accounts that were added, and accidentally there was no quick start setup category assigned. Quick start. So that could be another contributing factor to the omission of a GL account on the P&L. So I went immediately into dimensional subtotals were omitted, but that could also be another way that the income statement could be problematic, and that's just a new P&L account without a category, especially if it's a predefined P&L. All right. Okay, before we get started here, now let's see. So this release was on what was it, August 8th or 11th? I can't remember the exact date. So you might already be encountering some problems here. We've tried to give everybody a little heads up here. If your system is sending out emails to customers, vendors, whatever the case may be, and it looks like it's coming from your website, okay, then this is a non-negotiable, because of security reasons, requirement that we need for you to take care of. These are links. I'm going to follow this link. This is just a set of instructions that I just want to point out. You'll need to maybe forward this page over to your IT department. Whoever it is that manages your email server just needs to go through these steps so that you can continue to send out email on your domain. Okay. I think as of this last release, which was either the 8th or 11th, your email may not be going out if you've not taken care of this. All right. And then this is the release date of R4. So on that date, these two systems here, these two products will no longer be supported. That's authorized.net and PayPal. Here's a link to the one that is still out there that you can use going forward, VersaPay. So I gave you a link to the marketplace to do some research there if that's a need that you have. Right. And here's another announcement. Now this has, I don't think this has happened yet in my demo environment, but Intacct tells us that during this release cycle from 3 to 4, you will begin to notice that the enhanced list view is now your default. Okay, so this is what that enhanced view looks like, but you can still click on these 3 dots at the top right if you want to go back to the old interface there, the old list view. So you'd say turn off. So because we have the old default and now a new default, because of that, depending on which view that you're in, you'll probably want to pay attention to the online help. There's now 2 sets of online help that can help you navigate depending on which list view you're looking at. Just a little toggle up here. Poll question.
Okay, all right. Let me launch that. So some other things that Sage has released recently are automation AI like Copilot. Are you currently using any AI powered features in Sage Intacct like Copilot? A lot of talk about Copilot built-in native functionality and a lot of tools and applications today. All right, we'll give everybody just a few more seconds. Get your poll responses in. All right. There's some variety of answers here.
Sage Copilot. Again, we have some links. This takes you out to learn a little bit more about Sage Copilot and your online help. So I hope you'll take advantage of those links. I want to show you, I want to talk about this a little bit. Now, this is going to be really neat. It's almost there. I really like it though, where it is even today. So we're all familiar with Google search, right? It all started out with just a keyword, I think, normally, or a person's name, celebrity's name, whatever the case may be. But what AI gives us the ability to do is to talk a question, or to find things that way. Just with, you can see my example here. Will the cash flow statement work if I post journal entries to retain earnings? And it took me about 3 or 4 tries to get this response. This is what I was after. I knew this was correct. So this is actually how it returned. And because, the first try, second try, third try may not be what you were expecting, and in some cases you might say to yourself, boy, that is out and out wrong. I know that's not right. If you have that result, then I highly encourage you to come down here and click on no. And because you know for a fact it was not right answer, I encourage you to explain why it's not the right answer. And if we can all be contributing to that, feedback like that to the Sage Copilot functionality, this will get better and better and better over time. So I'm really excited about that. Just to kind of show you where that is, it's always going to be up here. Nice pretty S plus there. And I might say something like, why can't I post journal entries to retain earnings? This might say, well, you can. Interesting to see what this brings back. And this is kind of like a conversation thread in systems like Teams. So here you go. You cannot directly post. That's really not a true statement. You can, if you want to, post retain earnings. But if you want to avoid these issues, create a separate retained earnings adjustment account. So that's a good result for the most part. That's actually not a true statement up here, but I like the reason why it says you shouldn't. I guess the best word is you shouldn't post retained. So just remember, you've got, I'm sorry, it's under here, Sage Copilot right here. Just ask questions. Complete question. All right. So this close automation powered by Sage Copilot, you can click there and learn a little bit more about that. I really like this one here. This one alone may be well worth the subscription price. So let me show you, because this is what a lot of our support tickets deal with coming in. Why does the balance in accounts payable in the general ledger not agree to the grand total of my aged vendor bills? So that happens, can happen. Again, you're talking about a control account that Intacct is not expecting you to post direct journal entries to. So that's usually the most common reason why the control account balance gets out of sync, if you will, with the subledger. But this little subledger reconciliation assistant looks like, I've not used this yet, but this looks like this is going to be very helpful on an entity by entity basis. It's going to do that comparison for you, the control account with the subledger aging, and show you the variance. And when you click on these variances, you'll get more explanation there. I'd like to see what that is. It'd be nice if it presented maybe transactions that add up to that number. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. That may be asking too much, but that would be very cool. In other words, the journal entries that posted here that did not update vendor ledgers here, right? That would be slick. So in my opinion, this one feature here makes the subscription price for close automation totally worth it. Also got a close assistant, variance analysis. All right. I'm liking this too. This has a ways to go. Why do I like it? Well, first of all, let's talk about what's new. You've probably heard about this in prior releases. What's new this release is the ability to have an asset list in an Excel spreadsheet, and you've got all your columns headed up the way you want to. And with this import service here, it's just a matter of mapping your columns to the columns, those fields that Intacct is looking for. So it seems to be the most popular way to do data import. Now, why did I underline these up here? So when we go into the system, you'll notice that the templates in the company setup checklist for these, for example, departments, locations, chart of accounts, these are templates that are not asterisk. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go look at it. Company setup checklist. So if you've got a template that has an asterisk at the end, that means that this template can also be used to update existing records. And what was I mentioning a while ago? Departments, locations. It's been a while since I've used this list. I gotta remember where it is. Okay, here we go. Departments, no asterisk. Locations, no asterisk. Chart of accounts, no asterisk. So with the new import service, you have the ability, and here's how you access it. You have the ability to update your chart of your existing GL accounts, your existing locations, and your existing departments. Couldn't do that before, so I really like that. Before this, we've had to use a third-party developed application in order to do bulk updates. And I'm going to show you how to do a bulk update using the new import service. I really like this. I hate it for the third-party developer because they may be becoming obsolete, maybe. So I have another custom view of the chart of accounts that I really like to create as part of my reporting troubleshooting tickets. You'll notice that the columns are headed up with your dimensions, and where there's a check mark, the check mark represents a true value as opposed to a false value. The false value doesn't put a check mark, it just leaves the column blank. But what this means is that the check mark under the department column means that every time that you post a transaction to management fees, you have to tag that transaction with a department. So remember what I said before, most custom P&Ls or income statements use dimensional subtotals. And if that's the case, then you want to require, you don't want there to be null department values on transactions to these P&L accounts. And so you can prevent that by requiring, they'll get an error message, in other words, if they've forgotten to tag a department on the transaction. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to, using the new import service. This is just a pet peeve of mine. This does absolutely nothing to the way the system works. I like to see, though, for purposes of this view, I like to see check marks in this column. Putting the check mark in this column does not control the functionality because this is a required dimension for all transactions regardless, but I'm just simply doing it for the view itself. I want the view to represent how the system behaves, so I'm not really changing the functionality. So what I'm going to do is, on this list view, this is the GL accounts. I've also created another list view, which pulls in a field that not many people use, but it's the record number. Now, the record number is a required field when you're using the new import service to update existing records. So I made that my first field in this view. And I want check marks in the location column. So I'm only picking up 2 fields in my chart of accounts object here. So I'm going to export now that chart of accounts to an Excel file. This is what it looks like. All right. So the value is false, which means no check mark. So I'm going to replace all my falses with true. And I'm going to save that spreadsheet. I'm sorry, I got this buried so far, but I know how to get back to it if I do it this way. All right. So now my template is ready to import. So now I'm going to go back to the import service. This is where I want to update my location dimension. I want to update existing records in location. You'll notice there that I can drag and drop. If I bring this over here, there's the file I saved. Remember, I just exported right out of the system chart of accounts. Whoops, I'm sorry, I meant to drag that. Oh my goodness, where is my? That was a blunder. Here we go. Drag and drop. Sorry about that. You see the progress here at the bottom. Success. These are my 2 fields. Thing looks good, so I'm going to hit continue. You know what? I did that wrong. I am not updating the location dimension. I'm updating the chart of accounts. My apologies. I did that in my practice session too. Chart of accounts. Sorry about that. I'm going to get this back to a clean slate. Chart of accounts. Not showing me the here we go. No, I want to be. I don't know. Well, it's not giving me it. I was looking for that little icon telling me to. Okay, just drop the file. 2 fields looks good. 110. Okay, so we got 110 valid. So I'm just going to change for all existing jail accounts to true. So I'm going to import now the next step. Okay, you'll notice that 1 out of 110 did not work. And I'm aware of this. This is a, I don't know if you call it a glitch or not, but this failed to update the closed to account. But we're able to fix that in the system here. So if I exit now, go back to my dimensions view. So now I have a check mark in all GL accounts except for retained earnings control. I don't know why the service won't update it, but I can still update it here. Okay. So every row, every GL account requires a locate. Now that's just the way the system functions. I didn't cause the functionality with this check mark, but every other dimension, those boxes do control when a dimension is required when posting to the account, as you all know. All right, back to the presentation. There you go, Nicole.
All right. Poll question number 6. We're going to take a little pivot talking about payroll processing. Do you currently use Sage for processing your payroll? We'll give everybody just a few more seconds to respond. All right, closing the poll now. All right, it's all yours, Mark.
Oh, no results?
You want to see? Here we go. We've got one person does use Sage. We've got several who use a different system. And no.
All right. All right. What's new here is that, and it's kind of similar to functionality that we already have. As you know, when you're on a list view and you're at the top level, you have a little checkbox here up in the header area that says include private. I have a little pet peeve of mine. I just wish this said, to kind of be consistent with this, include entity level, and maybe put private in parentheses. I understand why they say private, but to me it makes sense to maybe change the terminology there. Maybe they'll do that with user interface improvements. But what you can do now when you're at a entity level, and the reason for this change is that by default in the past, those list views at the entity level automatically included all of the top level transactions, which was causing those lists to take a little longer than maybe you would want, especially if you're not concerned about top level transactions when you're at the entity level. So this becomes your choice now. The default is not to include top level transactions in those list views, but you can, just like you can here by checking the box, you can supplement your list view with all of the top level transactions. So that should create a list a lot quicker for you initially. All right. So as you know, in the past, Intacct has given us some shortcuts to receiving payments from customers, that on the customer invoice list view. And same goes making payments to our vendors on the bills, the list of bills screen. So we can do one-off payments very quickly that way, receiving or paying. So now what they've added this release is to maybe do more of a bulk type selection on a customer by customer basis or a vendor by vendor basis. And these links, again, will take you to the online help that talks a little bit more about that. I've not used this yet, but I have a feeling that because this is a customer list and a vendor list, when you click on these links here, apply payment or pay, I have a feeling you're going to be presented with a list of all open documents for that customer, for that vendor. And then you'll have check boxes, I presume, beside each one that you want to do a one-off payment process for. So be looking for that on these list views. There's a new, I don't know if embedded is the right word, but kind of built into the Intacct system is a new outsourced payment processor called Mineral Tree. So that is available to sign up for now. I know we've had, what was it, CSI, I think was the one in the past. There's kind of been a turnover for meeting this need. You have a help section that you can learn more about that service offered by Mineral Tree. So it, we did a little preview of this. Our team did here at Intacct, I'm sorry, at LBMC, and Mineral Tree just becomes another payment method for you on your uh, payment screen, pay bills and so forth. There'll be, I guess, the pricing of that will include your typical transaction-based pricing. And another thing I like to do with my presentations is to group together all of the new functionality that is as a result of our ideas, yours and ours. And so here's a list. This is just half of the list. This is great. This release had a lot of new functionality because we suggested it. And just a reminder that you can suggest features in the Intacct community. If you're not registered, be sure and go register to the Intacct community. And what you do is you submit ideas there, and those ideas then are voted on by your peers. And it's the highest vote getting ideas that Intacct gives serious consideration to for future releases. So that's what's happened here. These were some high vote getting ideas, and they made it into the release R3 2025. Ideas submitted by customers. I'm going to take a little bit of time and look at the first three in this list. I just wanted you to have awareness of those, and each of these will go into this link is the release note, and this is actually the help topic. Takes you all the way into the online help with this functionality. So customer refunds. This is where you have available credits right here. So this kind of looks like a pay bills screen, doesn't it? But it's a customer refund screen. Unfortunately, it's not a complete payment process. It's really a process to record after the fact a refund that you have sent to your customer in an external system. I know, and I'm not even sure that this completely helps our healthcare industry clients, but if your external receivable system, which most healthcare companies have that because the HIPAA requirements, it's separate and apart from Intacct. They know they need to refund, patient overpayments, and they have a lot of them to do, but there's just really not been a good solution in Intacct to do that. And I still think we may have a ways to go on that, but this does take care of, I guess, a traditional customer that has returned a product, for example, or just simply by error made an overpayment. And those have created any number of different kinds of available credits, right? And maybe you don't foresee ever being able to recoup those in a future invoice or bill, I suppose. So what you can do is go ahead and, I guess you would ACH a refund to your customer, but you need to get into the Intacct though and relieve, right? You need to adjust the AR balance to reflect the fact that you have returned the overpayment or the credit available. So this is going to work a lot like the pay bill screen. And a difference being that instead of a detail down here of open bills, you're going to see a detail of the nature of your open credits. And you're choosing which of those available credits that you've actually returned the money. You'll notice that there is only one payment method here. So here's your big clue that I can't write a check. So you can't actually process a check. Record transfer means, hey, we sent an electronic payment and we just need to book the payment in Intacct. So this is how you would do that. And that'll update your customer aging. Those credits will fall off. I think that's a good new feature. So whoever suggested that should be happy to see this. Another idea submitted from we the users of the system is being able to, on accounts payable bills, if you have an approval responsibility that I'm going on vacation, you or I are going on vacation, I need to be able to hand that responsibility off before I leave so that those bills don't get hung up. I believe this functionality has been around a while in the purchasing module, but we're talking about the same type of functionality for AP bills where you may or may not be using the purchasing module. So basically just a 3-step process. You're going to go into the AP configuration to get that functionality enabled. And then whoever has the permission to do so will manage all of the delegates for each user that has approval responsibility. Whoever that delegate is, it could be one or more users, it could be a group or just a single user. Those would be listed here. I'm sorry I didn't have a screen that had already populated that. And then the user, all the user has to do, the approver, before they go on vacation, is they go into their My Preferences and they go down and say, okay, I'm going to be out of town on these dates, starting and ending. And at that point, the approval responsibility gets handed off to designated delegate, designated approver. It's accounts payable bills. All right. Now, because of these two new features, Intacct has also expanded the objects upon which you can create a custom report. And I guess presumably also an interactive custom report. I went into the custom report, which is included in your core, and you can see the new primary data sources. Okay, so you can begin your custom report by choosing customer refund. And this is not so much all about a delegated approver, but this is a new object that is capturing the history of all the approvals that have gone on. So this is another object that you can create reports on. AP payment approval history. And then that third idea, I don't know how many people use this, but it's a nice feature. If you are using the automatic bill back functionality, that's where you are sending an invoice to yourself, right? You have a customer in the system that's sending an invoice to a vendor that's in your system, right? Those will be attached to your, a couple of entities in your system. So what makes it nice is that you can generate the invoice, but you don't have to be involved with generating the vendor bill on the other side of that transaction. So that's really nice. So what the new feature is in this release is that you can create in a bulk way all of those automatic bill back transactions with the import template. It's really easy. It's an easy lift as far as. So in the accounts receivable invoices import template, there's just now this new column. This is what it looks like. And all you have to do is populate that column for those invoices that involve a bill back customer and a bill back template ID. you're putting the ID of that template in the column on the row for that bill back customer. So if you have a lot of that going on, that should be good news. Number 3.
All right, launching our next poll question. We've been talking a lot about custom reports and reporting today. Would you be interested in some training or consulting to build more interactive custom reports? So you've shown us a lot, Mark, and we've got these templates we'll be sharing, but maybe someone has some other custom reporting that they could really use some help with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you get into the process of creating custom financial reports, I just want to reiterate our, well, it's actually Intacct's best practice is to let the predefined financial reports and account groups stay exactly the way they are. Always make a copy of them before you begin to tweak them, modify them, update them. That way you have useful, I always like to say this, those predefined reports are very useful as long as they've not been corrupted. So I like to just say, if it were me, I would retain that list, but treat it as a learning resource. Just go into the reports, check it out. Oh, this is what you have to do to get these results in my report, and just leave them alone, and then make a copy if you want to make some small changes. So
There you go.
they're not very useful if they get corrupted.
All right, we're going to end the poll. All right, and sharing the results. We've got some people who are interested, some not right now, and maybe check back later. So a little variety there.
Okay. All right. Here's the second half of the list of ideas. Now, these are all construction related. Lisa is one of our consultants. She's very good at construction, so please contact Lisa if you have specific questions about these new features. I'm not going to take the time on it, but these are some links for you to go learn more. There's the release note and the help topic in online help. So if you're into construction, that should be good news, these features. Here's a list of, I like to put these together too. These are functionalities that are available to you if you're enrolled in the early adopter program. So I thought it was kind of neat to have all these in one place where you can, for example, if I follow this, if I want to enroll in the early adopter program for line level matching, if I follow this link, there's going to be in the release note for this early adopter program, there'll be a form for you to fill out and submit, and that's the way you can get registered. Now, there's some more functionality coming out here for the close automation that unfortunately there is no more registration open for. So if you're already registered for the early adopter for close automation, then close workspace is the next new feature, and it's available to the early adopters. I believe this will actually take you, for those who are participating, that this is the online help for close workspace. It's kind of a checklist type of feature for the month-end close, and it's powered by Sage's artificial intelligence. This second one here, early adopter program. So as some of you may know, there are, we have global consolidation, domestic consolidation, and now we have new advanced ownership consolidation. And within advanced ownership consolidation, there's a new feature. I didn't have it before. It's called the equity method of consolidation. The advanced ownership version of the consolidations is the highest price. It has the most complex functionality. But I did want to look at that a little bit. This is a diagram. This is in your release notes, but I thought I'd blow it up for you here. Equity method is just where the system, you're automating all of the journal entries to record the equity method of consolidating your entities. So that in this example, you have E401 that is 30% owned by E400. So these are two entities in your Intacct system. And then E100 owns 40% of E400. So if you have advanced ownership consolidations, then Intacct automatically will book these consolidation entries for you. So of the 100,000 of profit from E401, there's an automatic pickup of 30,000. That's 30% of the 100 on entity 400's books, which bumps its total income up to 230. And then here at the top, E100 is going to book 40% of E400's total income. So that's where the 92 comes from. That's pretty neat. Domestic consolidations will work for everybody that does not need a multi-level consolidation. What do I mean by multi-level? If your top consolidation, if the columns just represent one entity, domestic can handle it. But if your reporting requirement at that top level represents, let's say in the first column, it's the consolidation of 3 other entities. So it's a consolidated amount in and of itself. And the second column might be a consolidation of 3 more entities, let's say entities 4, 5, and 6. If that's the kind of reporting requirement you have for consolidations, then you need multi-level consolidation functionality, which means you need this advanced, this is the advanced ownership consolidation functionality. So this will take you into the online help to learn more about advanced ownership. All right. Intacct has put out some new product videos, and it looks like they have updated this course down here, the reporting course for IB. I don't spend a whole lot of time on this, but it's exciting to know that it's out there. So for example, we've got a new video about how you can import fixed assets with the new import service. So if you follow this link, I don't know, maybe y'all didn't even know about it either, but you have all these neat videos here in this little directory. I go to fixed asset management. Here's the video of the new functionality in release 3 2025 that you can watch. Video library. All right. So here's the release calendar. This link here will take you to all of the notes for this current release. And then I've given you links to the first 3 releases of this year also, or the other 2 rather. And as I said before, your next release, R4, is scheduled for November the 7th. Okay.
All right, we have our final poll question. Gonna go ahead and launch that. For future topics, custom invoice templates. So anyone are you currently using custom invoice templates? And while everyone's answering, we did have a question come in, Mark, about more courses regarding custom report creation. And to answer that, there is a course in Sage University called Financial Reporting and Dashboards on Demand, as well as a course called Sage Intacct Building Advanced Reports with Interactive Custom Report Writer. So if you're looking for more information on custom report creation, you can visit those two resources. We also have a couple webinars on demand that we've covered interactive custom report writer that you can access via the YouTube channel.
And then you also have the Sage University, which you can register for. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of courses in there. And we provide training.
We do.
That's one of my favorite things to do. It's usually 4 hours long, and we usually break it up into two 2-hour sessions. So I'd be happy to conduct some of that myself.
Great. Let me give y'all a few more seconds, and this is our final poll question for those seeking CPE. All right, we'll be closing the poll now. Thank you for participating. It looks like about a quarter of our audience is using custom invoice templates currently.
All right, that's the end of my presentation. Give me a
All
little
right.
bit of time now.
Yeah, we do have just a few more minutes. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A. Thank you, Mark, for the time today. We covered a lot of material. As a reminder, you will be receiving the slide deck from today that'll include all of those great links that Mark has gone through today. You'll also get a recording of the webinar, as well as those 2 packs of report templates that Mark's put together, helping you build 4 reports in about 10 minutes. That'll be our tagline. 3 reports in 10 minutes. So be on the lookout for those emails. Also, if you did request CPE and you qualify, you'll get an email from our sister company, at LBMC, that will be issuing your CPE credit and certificate. If you don't get that in 2 weeks, please feel free to reach out to us. All right. Let me check down in the Q&A. I don't see any other questions. Let me check the chat. All right, I think we're all set. So thank you everyone for the time today. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you in October, either in Nashville or Knoxville at our upcoming Sage Intacct User Summit. In the meantime, please feel free to follow us on all of our social channels, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.